Shabbat Shalom. I hope you're ready for another relaxing and inspiring Shabbat. I want to speak about two emotions that the Torah puts together. One is ahava, is love, and the other is yira, is fear. And when it comes to love, as Rav Sak Zatzal, the chief rabbi, as he noted, that love is not balanced in the Torah. It's there in the beginning, it's there at the end. In the book of Genesis, the very first book of Torah, the Sefer Bereshit, the word love appears 15 times. And then the second book, Exodus, only twice. And the third book, Leviticus, again, only twice. And in the fourth book, Bamidbar, Numbers, it doesn't appear at all. And then in the fifth book, 23 times. And so there's love at the beginning and there's love at the end, but not much in the middle. But there are different types of love at the beginning and the end. In the beginning, the story of Genesis is the story of the Jewish family. And so love that appears in Genesis is about love between parents and children, between husbands and wives. That's the love of the book of Genesis. It's family love. The love of the book of Deuteronomy, of Devarim, is the love between God and the Jewish people. And one example of that is in our Torah portion this week, when the Torah says, Ve'ata Yisrael, and now, O Israel, Ma Hashem Elokecha shoel meimach, what does God want of you? Ki'im liyirat Hashem Elokecha, lalechet b'chol drachav, to fear God, to walk in His paths, uli ahava oto, and to love Him. V'la'avod et Hashem Elokecha b'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha, and to love the Lord your God with all of your heart and with all of your soul. The concept of fear, lira, and love, ahava, come together in this verse and in so much of life and in the Torah as it presents love to us. And when it comes to fear, as the Talmud says, quoting this verse, it says, Hakol bidei shamayim. Everything is in the hands of heaven, chutz meyirat shamayim, except for the fear of heaven. Meaning the degree to which we fear God, the degree to which we serve God. That's in our hands. Everything else is in God's hands. They tell the story of the Netziv, of Naftali Tzvi Yehuda Berlin, how one of his students came back to Volozhin to visit and to see him, and the Netziv says, so tell me, how are you doing? And the student says, oh, I'm doing great. My health is good. My parnasa, my livelihood is good. I'm doing great. And then the conversation continued, and a few moments later, the Netziv of Naftali Tzvi Yehuda Berlin turned to the student again and said, so tell me, how are you doing? The student said, wait a second, I thought I answered that question already. Yeah, okay, I'm okay, thank God we're healthy, doing well, put food on the table, everything's good. And then the conversation continued, and again, the Netziv asked the same question. And finally, the student said, Rabbi, with all due respect, you've asked me that twice already. And I've given you an answer. The Netziv said, no. You've told me, I've asked you how you're doing, but you've told me how God is doing. God has kept you healthy. God has allowed you to earn a livelihood, to have parnasa. That's what God is doing for you. But how are you doing? That's how are you doing for God? How are you doing for yourself? Are you setting aside time to pray? Are you setting aside time to study Torah? How are you doing? It's a very powerful story because in life there's so much that's just beyond our control that God decides for us. And then there's so much that's within our control. And I believe one of the major lessons of this last period is that there's so much that's out of our control. And as we've said many times, it's not out of control. It's in God's control. It's just out of our control. And so we embrace the things that we can control, that we can change. And that becomes the answer to, how are you doing? That's fearing God. That's the mitzvah of fear. That's the mitzvah of love. The response to, how are you doing? How is your inner life? Do you feel closer to God now than you did a year and a half, 2 years, 3 years ago? And if not, what are you doing to change that? How is your spiritual life? How is your spiritual growth? How are you doing? Thank God. Please God, keep us healthy. Please God, allow us to maintain a livelihood and to feed our families and to be able to live lives of comfort. Please, God, allow that to happen. But the question, how are you doing? That's the key question to which we have to have an answer that's true to the inner realities of our life. How are you doing? I wish you a Shabbat Shalom, and may God keep us all healthy and safe, and may we grow in every way that our hearts desire. Shabbat Shalom.